Hello, fellow menstruators out there. I nearly said women, but menstruators are not only women anymore this day and age. Hello, and welcome to the monthly My Period Data is Mine meetup. We have Marcel,
Hello.
and I am Daniela. Hello. Uh, you can join us anytime on the third Tuesday of the month, 4 p.m. UTC. So if you want to have essay or if you want to ask questions, to join us third week or third Tuesday of the month, 4 p.m. UTC. Now, until somebody joins us, we will simply talk about the state of affairs around menstruation, why it is important, and why it is super important that you keep your data to yourself. First of all, the good news. Yes, there is good news out there, and it is that in Poland, the first abortion center has opened not such a long time ago. Why is that important? Well, technically, it was allowed to have an abortion in Poland, but given that nobody's going to give it to you, it's kind of hard. And that is something I have seen over and over and over and over and over again across Europe, the US, South America. I'm not up to date on Africa, to be honest. So if anyone out there has information, do get in touch, please. I'd love to know what the data is around there, and also the same for Asia. But generally, the theme is even though it's legally allowed, if doctors can object to performing a procedure on basis of religion or beliefs or any other reason whatsoever, then it is not available. Full stop. And that was,
Or even if it's actively discouraged,
yes.
people could have pressure put on them to not have an abortion,
Mhm.
you know, as opposed to being given the facts and being allowed to make a decision on their own. It's, you've been encouraged to keep the child. And I think that's also included in that.
Yes, I completely agree. Um, Personally, I went to school with another girl at that age, obviously. She was 14, going on 15 as she fell pregnant, 15 when she gave birth. Therefore, she didn't really get a chance because she dropped out to take care of the baby for a few years. And those are the years where you choose what you want to be and which school you're going to take to get there. Now, having that lack of schooling meant she also didn't ever go to further education or university or anything. She was smart, but that one decision in her life meant that the rest of her life was gone. Um, I did meet up with her later on. She, yeah, minimum wage job, as you could imagine. She had a few more kids, and that was her life. Lovely person. I wish her well for the rest of her life, but that is what happens to a lot of people out there. And in my experience, that's the larger percentage of the younger end of the spectrum who decide to keep the baby rather than think about it in a more rational way with the full impact it's going to have over one's lifetime. There are exceptions. Yes, I also have met one co-worker who had a child early on, but that meant she went to university with the baby, breastfeeding in between classes, changing nappies in between classes, and she basically had double and triple workloads put on top of her. So there was no going out, not a lot of socializing. It's basically studying and the baby. And then it was work and the baby and not much else. Again, is that something you want for your daughter? You want for yourself? It's your decision, but ultimately it is a decision that needs to be made. Further on to the good news, in Europe at least, there is a European citizen initiative that is in the making right now. I've just seen it earlier on today, so it really is hot off the press. I will put the link down in the video comments so you can go and check it out yourself. I'll put it out on Mastodon as well. What that means, a European Citizens Initiative, is when the European citizens collect signatures so that the European government then has to look at a topic and decide yes or no. In order to garner those signatures, there needs to be a minimum threshold across a certain number of countries that get to that point. So it's not like one country can be 100% and nobody else wants it. No, it needs, I think it was 7 countries in total that need to reach a certain percentage of the population that want it. So have a look at it. Please, please, please have a look at it. Make your own mind up. I'm not here to tell you what to do and what to think, but make your own mind up and then ideally sign it. The reason why this is helpful is, and now we're going over to the bad news. The reason why this is helpful is because currently women are dying around the globe. In the US, it is mothers who have just given birth, so the postpartum birth rate is skyrocketing in places where abortion, and with abortion, it's the whole female reproductive health care. All of that is dropping. It's not only getting worse in the abortion aspect, but it's getting worse across the whole board. So that's happening there, and also in every single country that is going towards the fascist and authoritarian end of the spectrum. And it's trendy right now, whether I like it or not. It's happening in more countries. And that is where I come back to Europe for a moment. It's happening here too.
And with that comes the patriarchy, which is what drives the reduction in women's rights.
Yes. For example, a lot of people who are ruling on decisions are men, and they don't necessarily know how the female reproductive system works. It may have been years since you've seen one. Who knows? I'm speculating here, but I don't think I'm far off the money. We need more women to act on women's behalf. And when I say women, I mean everyone who was born as a woman, or as they call it now, assigned female at birth, or if you have transitioned into being a woman, or if you want to be a woman, or you want to be a man, but you want to dress up as a woman every now and then. I really don't care what you like. Ultimately, we need everyone to act on women's behalves and to make sure that we're all safe. Because, again, whether I or you like it or not, currently we still need women. And if women are not being taken care of, humanity will die out. As simple as that. If there were no women on the planet, humanity would disappear pretty quickly. Now, birth rates. That is actually what I'm hinting at. Birth rates are still falling across the globe, pretty much. If you're thinking, well, but the global south, well, birth rates are falling there as well. Currently, there are a handful of countries that have a slightly increasing birth rate, but the increase is leveling off as well. So the projections that by the end of the current century, that the number of people, the total number of people on the planet should be leveling off, if not reducing. We're on track for that. And again, the problem is, sorry, I'm a bit on a roll today, so
Yeah.
let me just have you get into
Yeah,
it.
that Hans Rowling, I think his name is,
Mhm.
more than a decade ago now, produced an excellent YouTube video, which we can include a link to in
Yes.
the comments below. It pointed out that we have already reached peak baby. In other words, the most number of babies born in any one year has already been reached. The only reason the world's population continues to grow is that people are getting older.
Yes.
So the people that are 30 are reaching 60, 70, 80, 90, which wasn't happening before. So the pyramid that we normally associate with populations, a large base of babies narrowing to a tiny number of old people, has completely narrowed, so that the number of people that actually die before they reach old age has been drastically reduced, and this is what has increased the life expectancy. And it's that growing of the pyramid upwards, all the babies that have already been born that will get older and reach old age, that is causing the increase in population, the continued increase in population. But the maximum number of babies born in any one year has already been reached, and the number of babies born each year has been dropping since then. So the reason the population will plateau, and we can forecast that in the next few decades, is because that growing older will have finished, and then it will just literally be a narrowing of that cylinder now, less than the pyramid. That population pyramid was more of a cylinder. That will continue to narrow as we go forward.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know there are lots of messages out there to both extremes that the world needs more people for productivity and all sorts of things. And there's the other extreme message saying the world is overpopulated and we can't survive with that many people out there. Personally, I think neither of them are absolutely true. I think there is no ideal number of people on the planet as such. I think everyone should be given the decision on whether to have babies or not themselves, especially if your own body is involved in it. And that's that. Humanity has never had as many people on the planet as now, and we are coping. Yes, things need to change a little bit, and I'm thinking about the geopolitical setup more than anything else. I'm a firm believer that science will come to the rescue in those countries where science still happens. There are lots of really, really good news stories out there. And again, we need all of the people to pitch in for a better world. And that means we also need women to come forward and show and share their ideas on everything that can be done with them, to them, or to improve equality throughout the world. And the one thing that I think is the most important step, or one of the important steps right now, is to make sure women and their health is kept up to date, that we know what's happening with the female reproductive system. It's one of the most exciting and also scary things that exists on the planet. And right now, there's not a lot known about it. There's a lot more progress that we're waiting for at this point. And it's important that this happens. And in order for this to happen, we need to have data and knowledge and science, something that's founded on facts and nothing else. But when I say data, I want to distinguish here between data that's publicly available and that cannot be traced back to you, and data that's very personal to you. So, period data, menstruation data. And the reason why it's important to distinguish those two is that currently in some countries there are decisions made based on your personal menstruation data. For example, incarcerating women just because it appears as if they had an abortion. Now, anyone out there who had a period that was a week to even 3 weeks late, it does not mean that they were pregnant and it's an abortion or a miscarriage. No, it could just be stress. And I'm guessing if you're watching this, you know about stress right now. So there's a lot of information that I personally would not want to be out to be known by the public. I literally wouldn't want my boss to know when I menstruate. It's just none of their business at all. I wouldn't want my nosy neighbor to know about it. I wouldn't want anyone to know about it. Full stop. Not even my close family needs to know about it. It's just none of their business. And done. And that is where, in my opinion, the scary part comes in. In many countries, you have no choice in terms of whether your information gets watched or spied upon by your government. So every time you write an email, it can be investigated, it can be looked at, because the police, meaning the government, can go to a company and say, hey, we want the data of user, I don't know, let's call it Joanne for a moment. Joanne has apparently had an abortion. We need to know her data. They go to Facebook, Facebook will hand over the data. They go to Google, and Google with Gmail, they will hand over the data. There are very, very few period trackers out there that will not hand over the data because legally they are required to. And that puts them in a bind. So what's the solution? Every time you use a period track and the data is sent to the cloud somewhere, somebody else has that data, and they will have to hand it over, whether they like it or not. It's law. So the only way out is to keep the data on your phone. And there are two two period trackers that I know of that have the data on the phone. One of them that I particularly like from an aesthetical point of view and what it does, and it's called Drip. Have a look at it. As I said, I like it a lot. It does what it says on the tin, and it's lovely. It looks good. But the problem I have with it is that I don't need to use a password. I install it, I use it, no password required. You can add a password, but you don't have to have a password. And for those who are lesser technical than Marcel here, what that means is that the database is not encrypted. So even though you can add a password, the database itself is not encrypted. So as soon as you hand over your phone to the police, they can actually get a hold of your data. It's just a simple case of find the file and open it. And what do you do then? Again, the government's going to be after you. What's even more worrying, currently until I believe it's the 14th of October, it's early October, within the EU, there is a plan that every single government can listen in on every single piece of communication there is. The Danish, correct me, Marcel, please. The Danish Prime Minister said there should be no.
Just a minister, not the prime minister.
Sorry,
a Danish minister, not a prime minister.
A Danish minister, thank you, mentioned that or said that he doesn't want anyone, or he doesn't want anyone to think that any piece of communication is private anymore. So they want to listen in on everything. Not for them, I suppose. I guess that politicians will have separate channels and it will not get looked at. But for normal private citizens like you or I, they will be listening in on everything. Emails, WhatsApps, Facebook messages, and also every time you save data in your period tracker, which is communicated to a server in the cloud, all of that will be listened in on as well, because it's communication between your phone and the server in the cloud. Oh, but it's encrypted, you think? It's like, no, it's not. First of all, it's encrypted from between your phone and when it hits some server in the cloud, but you don't know what happens then. Generally, the data may not necessarily be saved in an encrypted way. You don't know who's going to unencrypt it on the way, so it's not really safe. You don't know what happens. And if you're cynical, or if you think I am cynical about this, well, have a look at what happened to Flow. Flow and Meta have just paid out because data from their encrypted app was stolen. Well, stolen. It was sold to third parties. They have settled out of court, and yes, do ask the question, why did they settle out of court instead of, if they're innocent, going to court and proving that they're innocent? Think about that for a moment, let it sink in, delete your data from those apps and move away. Going back to Drip that keeps the data on your phone. Again, if somebody gets a hold of your phone, they will be seeing the data, so it's not that much better. It's very similar to writing down your period data on pen and paper or on a calendar on your desk somewhere. As soon as somebody sees it and has information or and looks at it, they know what's going on. As simple as that. So, moving back to good news for a moment. This is where our project comes in. We have a period tracker that is pretty much unhackable by today's standards, and also from what we know now for future standards. The difference between us and Drip is that we encrypt the database at the lowest level. So it is encrypted. You cannot even open the app the first time without providing a password, because it is your password that is the key to encrypting the database. The password is not stored. It's something that you have in your mind, nobody can get to it, and you use it to open up the app and nothing else. If somebody else gets a hold of your phone and they manage to get through the password on the phone to access your apps, Should they get to the files are encrypted. Again, only your password can decrypt it. And unless you tell somebody your password, they will never get to the data. And that is important. That is really, really important. It's not being sent into the cloud. It's only on your phone. There are no third parties, no advertising. It's simply you and your data and nothing else. Now, one last comment for the super cynical people out there. I've had comments like, yes, but the cell phone tower, they will pick it up. It's like, no, they won't, because the data is not being sent or transmitted or anything. And if you want to take it up to 11, there was a comment of, yes, but the government can take a screenshot of what's going on in your phone. Maybe, maybe. I can't guarantee that this is not going to happen. But at this,
I think what's important is that, if you're looking at your phone and you're looking at your data, then anybody looking over your shoulder or the telescopic lens through the window or whatever is going to be able to see that data too. So arguing that you can take a screenshot is yes. Anybody who's looking over your shoulder at that point in time, however they're doing it, whether they're doing it via telescopic lens or digitally, let's say that your phone has been hacked and there's a screenshot application on there taking photos of your screen and sending it back to Google or whoever owns your phone. That technically is possible, but it's the same as someone looking over your phone. The real thing is that when the app is closed, the data is encrypted. Nobody can access the data at that point in time. If somebody takes your phone and the app is closed, they can't access the data. But if the app is open and they take your phone whilst the app is open, obviously they can then have a look at all your data. And you're always going to have that point of, if you can see the data, then somebody else can see the data. Yes, obviously. But that's because you can see the data. You need to be able to unlock the database to be able to look at it. If you want to share that information with your doctor, you're showing your doctor that information. You're sharing that information at that point in time. So yes, your doctor has a copy of that data. They can make notes from that data. But you're the one that's choosing who to share that with. Sure, somebody may have a telescopic lens, and yes, sure, there may be a screenshot app on your phone. And we don't know whether that's going to happen. We know that Microsoft, for example, has already got that recall feature. We just continue taking snapshots of your desktop. And with Android, for example, the open source project is being discontinued, so they're going to make it all closed source. So we won't know what they will be doing to the Android, and obviously we don't know what's happening on the iPhone at the moment. So yes, there's obviously that possibility that somebody will be able to see what's on it because you can see what's on it, and that's it.
yes. Now, let me just pick up a little bit on the Windows 11 topic. For those of you who haven't heard about it, if you're running Windows 11, every few seconds, a screenshot of what is happening on your screen is being taken. So whatever you have open on your screen, somebody else can see that now. Congratulations. It may be time to move off it. Who knows? Your decision. You need to decide if you want Windows or somebody working at Windows, like your creepy neighbor. If you want them to see it, open it. If you don't want them to see it, think about what your options are. And in the same vein, I just want to mention that even on phones, and Marcel, you're more technical than me, so correct me if I'm wrong at anything. As far as I know, it's Facebook and TikTok that both have technologies whereby as soon as you have the app installed on your phone, they also can get to information on other apps installed on your phone when you're running them. The app itself doesn't need to be open. So you don't need to open Facebook in order for Facebook to collect data from other apps that you're using on your phone. Is my understanding.
That's not entirely true. What is true is that you don't have to open your Facebook application or Instagram application for it to be sending data back to Facebook and Instagram. So they're using a feature that they can send push notifications, and the push notification can send information back. So even if you don't have the application open, just having the push notification will enable them to obtain data about your phone, what you're using, and etc. So there's information that the app can access that they can send back. But it's still restricted to what the app itself can access. It can't access information on other apps unless you have provided permission for that app to access those apps. So when you're sitting there and saying, "Oh, I want, my application to be able to access my contacts and my telephone and things like that," when you've provided that access, then yeah, sure, they can access that information. They can access your contacts and things like that, even without you opening an application, just because you have push notifications enabled. So there's that aspect to it. There was also talking about that push notifications being unencrypted. So even though your encryption is enabled, there was a caching mechanism that allowed a encrypted messaging application to cache the pop-ups from the notification unencrypted on the phone. So we need to be aware as well of applications, particularly push notifications, what they're doing. But yes, if you install an application on your phone and you provide that phone with access to all sorts of things, then that application will have access to all those sorts of things. Whether you think it's useful or not, you decide what you want that application to do. And if an application is accessing things you don't want to share with that company, then don't install it on your phone. The reason a lot of companies are switching to apps as opposed to web browsers is not because it's more convenient or whatever, it's because they can access information on your phone that they can't do through a web browser, just by having the application installed on your phone. So that's just something to be aware of.
Thanks so much, and thank you for the correction. Yes, it's a lot to take in. It's not always to get it right, so that's why a lot of us, not only myself, rely on Marcel and people like Marcel who actually know what's going on, and I would recommend you learn about things like that yourself. Now, if you think, man, so much information to take in, yes, you're right. And that's why my recommendation is listen to people like us, people in the information security space, and just keep up to date on what's going on. If nothing else, look at the news around period trackers and what is being done with them. It's a scary world out there, and it's so easy to keep yourself safe and make sure that you're not running into issues. And again, if you think that we're in Europe, or we are in Switzerland, or wherever you are in the world, we are safe. It's like those days are unfortunately over. Um, all of the countries I'm thinking of right now, and I'm thinking about a lot of them, uh, there are tendencies to want to move towards the right wing, towards authoritarianism, towards increasing the workforce, meaning or increasing the customer base, really. And that means increasing how many children there are going to be on the planet. And that means somebody is going to have to make them. Now, it's not going to be me, let's be honest, but it may be you who will not get the help you deserve. And in order to put a little bit of protection in, I would recommend to you get in touch, get our period tracker. We will be releasing it as soon as possible. If you want to be an early tester, do get in touch and you can have it now. Otherwise, you can donate to us. If we have enough money, we can hire one or two more people to get it out quicker. If you have skills of any kind, literally of any kind, I'm sure you can help somehow to get it over the line quicker than Marcel and I can do it on our own. But it's relatively easy to make this happen. Our proof of concept is there. We know what the data is going to look like. We currently are working on the user design because it does need to be intuitive and easy to work as well. And I, for one, understand that um, just as much as anyone else. And then we will be there. Ideally before Christmas. I don't want to promise this though, because we do live in quite a harsh world right now. So help us get over the line. Help anyone out there. If you have a daughter, a niece, a granddaughter, if you have any women or anyone who menstruates in your life who may need a little bit of safety, do get in touch, do help us. There's nothing in it for us. It is simply to get something out there that would help other people. So help us make the world a little bit better, because I think that currently given the state the world is in, I think little projects like these ones, they are the projects that will bring about the change towards the better. And that's my part for today, trying to create a little bit of hope and something tangible that literally can save your life. Sorry, I've been on a bit of a roll. Marcel, what do you want to say today?
Just from a technical perspective, just to make people aware, the minimum SDK, software development kit, we have needed to increase that from 21 to 23 on Android. Now, the software development kit is something that Android updates pretty much on an annual basis. And we've had to increase it from version 21 to 23. Version 21 was released in 2014, and version 23 was released in 2015. So we're talking about a really old set of application programming interface functions and methods and things like that that has changed. So it really, obviously, we can't support every single Android phone that's ever been produced. But up until now, we've been able to support all Android phones that were on Android 5, which was Android Lollipop, which was released in 2014, as I said. And now we can only support all phones up to from Android 6 and older, which is Android Marshmallow. Its code name is Marshmallow. So there has been a change in the range of phones that we can support. And the reason for that is because the libraries that we use to maximize the security and stability of the phones, which provide the backwards compatibility. So even though we're compiling with the latest versions of everything, the software that provides us with compatibility to be able to run on older phones has decided that Android 5 is now less and older. Android 5 is now less than 1% of the phones in use based on the Play Store's downloads. So we still, and they still support over 99% of phones that are still connecting to the Play Store. And that is the reason they've changed their support structure. So they do try and maximize the number of phones that they can support, but obviously they can't support every phone that's ever produced. And to provide that backwards capability, they have their restrictions as well. So we've had to increase the minimum phone or an old phone from 21 to 23 as well, so that we can continue to use this software that provides the backwards compatibility. So we obviously can still support all phones that are 10 years and old and newer, but there's now been a change in those phones that were just another year older, which is a shame, but that is the way the world works. Old stuff stops working after a while. But that's a change that we've just made this last few days. So if you are wanting or are using our GitHub site to install the app on your phone, then that will be a change that you need to be made aware of.
Thanks for that.
Hope that made sense.
To technical people, I'm sure. What I heard is if you have a really old phone, get in touch with us and we'll try and figure something out, I guess.
If you have an 11-year-old phone, it would have worked before. If you had a 12-year-old phone, it wouldn't have worked up until now. If you had an 11-year-old phone, it would have worked up until now. But if you have an 11-year-old phone, it will stop working, as was the case with 12-year-old phones. But 10-year-old phones will continue to work. That's the change.
As it so happens, my backup phone is coming up to the 11-year mark, so I will be trying that out myself and see how we can work around it, because maybe other people out there also have an old phone who may need a bit of help, in my opinion, just to keep a basic version of something running, even if it's not supported and so on. We'll find a way. Basically, it may take some time, but we'll find a way. Main priority right now is to get the first proper version out there, to make it available to people. As I said, get in touch, help. It's been a while already, I know, but we're getting closer to releasing it. And with that, I do hope we can spread a little bit of hope and love and joy with our news updates. And as soon as the product is ready, you can have it for free on your phone without trackers, without advertising, without anyone knowing when you have your period or when you don't have your period. As easy as that. And with that, I leave you until the next third Tuesday in October, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, UTC. See you then. Bye bye.
Bye.